They said Helen wouldn't make it past 83. Her heart had grown tired, her joints stiff, and her doctor warned her daughter to prepare. That was 7 years ago. Now, at 90, Helen tends her garden each morning, walks unaided to the corner store, and never misses her Sunday choir rehearsal. What changed? The answer, Helen will tell you with a knowing smile, lies in the little things she does every single day. It wasn't magic, she once told her neighbor. It was a few habits I learned from an old friend, one who happened to wear a white coat. That old friend was Dr. Miller. For over 40 years, Dr. Gerald Miller studied seniors who lived not just long lives, but deeply fulfilling ones. He wasn't looking for miracle cures or perfect genes. What fascinated him were the patterns. The repeatable, ordinary habits that added years, not just to life, but to strength, clarity, and joy. After thousands of patients and decades of observation, Dr. Miller narrowed it down to 7 things. 7 daily habits that, done consistently, quietly helped his patients reach, and often surpass, 90 with dignity and energy intact. You may be surprised by how simple they sound. But as Dr. Miller often says, it's not the complexity that makes them powerful, it's the consistency. Let's take a quiet step into Helen's morning, and perhaps, your future too. Every morning at 7:15, Helen opens her window and breathes. Not a quick inhale, not a rushed gasp, but a deep, slow breath, held for a few seconds, then released with intention. This is the first habit Dr. Miller always recommended, starting your day with 3 full, mindful breaths. He called it the reset button. A simple act of self-awareness that tells your nervous system, you're safe, you're alive, and you have the power to shape this day. Why does something so small matter? Because your body listens to your breath. When you begin your day hurried, shallow-breathed and tense, your heart rate spikes, blood pressure rises, and your focus scatters. But when you take just a few mindful breaths, your parasympathetic nervous system, the one that heals, calms, and restores, kicks in. It's like opening a window for your soul before you even step out of bed. Helen learned this after a scare. She once jolted out of bed too fast, felt dizzy, and nearly fell. Dr. Miller gently advised her, "Helen, take a breath before you take a step." And from that day on, she did. It set the tone not just for her morning, but for her life. Moving along, another habit Dr. Miller observed in his longest-living patients was their unique relationship with movement, not exercise in the traditional sense, but intentional, enjoyable movement. Now, before you picture marathon runners or seniors doing push-ups in the park, let me take you back to Robert, a 92-year-old retired bus driver with knees that creaked and a back that barked when the weather changed. Robert wasn't a gym goer. What he did was even better. Each morning after breakfast, he turned on a bit of classical jazz, rolled his shoulders, and danced, slowly, with rhythm, just enough to get his blood flowing. He called it his morning sway. Dr. Miller noted something powerful here. Movement that brings joy, no matter how light or short, lights up the brain in ways that forced workouts never could. It improves circulation, keeps joints lubricated, and stimulates memory and coordination. Joyful movement, Dr. Miller called it. The kind your body looks forward to. And here's the part most people miss. It's not about duration, it's about regularity. 5 minutes of dancing every day will do more for your longevity than 30 minutes of grudging exercise once a week. It's a message older adults especially need to hear. Consistency beats intensity every single time. So whether it's a light stretch, a stroll around the block, or a gentle sway to your favorite music, let it become your daily rhythm. Your future self will thank you. Now, let's talk about something often overlooked but deeply revealing, your morning glass of water. Yes, habit number 3 sounds almost too simple. But Dr. Miller was firm on this. 1 glass of room temperature water within 30 minutes of waking. Why? Because after 7 or 8 hours of sleep, your body is naturally dehydrated, your blood slightly thicker, and your organs waiting for a gentle signal to begin their day. That first drink isn't just refreshing, it's biochemical permission for your body to get moving. Dehydration is one of the most silent threats in older age. It can cause fatigue, foggy thinking, constipation, and even increase your risk of falls. And yet, it's so preventable. Dr. Miller would often say, your morning water is like oiling the gears before you drive. He advised keeping a glass by your bed so you wouldn't forget. Helen did this too. She'd add a few drops of lemon sometimes, just for taste. That glass, simple as it was, became her secret weapon against sluggish mornings. And maybe you're wondering, is it really this easy? Can something as small as breathing deeply, swaying to music, and sipping water extend life? Well, here's the truth Dr. Miller never stopped repeating: small choices, repeated daily, create enormous change. Let me tell you about Alan. Alan was 87 when he first met Dr. Miller. A widower, former mechanic, stiff in the knees and tired of medication. At their first meeting, he half joked, "Doc, I'm just trying to make it to 90 without falling apart." Dr. Miller smiled. "Then let's rebuild you, one habit at a time." Alan started walking for 10 minutes after breakfast. He cut back on late-night snacks. He stopped skipping breakfast and swapped the evening news for soothing classical music before bed. And each day, he'd write down one thing he was grateful for. By 89, Alan wasn't falling apart. He was hosting barbecues, helping neighbors fix their bikes, and giving speeches at the local Veterans Hall. At 91, he still drives himself to church on Sundays. It didn't take surgery. It didn't take expensive supplements. It took awareness. And repetition. That's what Dr. Miller's approach is all about. A mosaic of little things that, when done every day, become the fabric of a longer, healthier life. So let's keep going. Because the fourth habit might surprise you. It has nothing to do with your legs, or lungs, or liver. It's about your ears. And no, not just cleaning them. It's about your ears, and what you allow into them. Dr. Miller often said, longevity doesn't just depend on what you eat or how you move, it depends on what you hear, and what you believe because of it. That's why the fourth daily habit he prescribed had nothing to do with medicine and everything to do with mindset: limit your exposure to negativity, and feed your mind something uplifting each day. Now, think about this. How many mornings begin with the news blaring tragedy, fear, or conflict before you've even had your tea? How many conversations, especially among the older crowd, spiral into aches, complaints, or worries about the world? While it's natural to stay informed or vent occasionally, bathing your brain in constant negativity becomes a silent toxin. And Dr. Miller noticed it: the ones who lived longest were those who consciously filtered what they allowed in. Take Gloria, for example. At 88, she had every reason to complain: arthritis in her hands, a daughter who lived 2 states away, and a hip that didn't quite cooperate when the rain rolled in. But each morning, Gloria would listen to 15 minutes of her favorite classical music or replay a recording of her grandson's laughter from a birthday party. "It lifts me," she'd say. "It reminds me there's still joy in this world." That was her ritual. Dr. Miller encouraged his patients to do the same. It could be music, a short spiritual reading, a recording of birdsong, or a simple practice like writing down one positive thought for the day. Begin with peace, he'd say, and watch what else starts falling into place. If you're watching right now and this resonates with you, even just a little, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's your morning ritual? Do you play music? Sit in silence? Is there something small that lifts your spirit before the world gets noisy? Let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this might be the perfect moment to join our little community of wisdom seekers. There's always room for one more voice here. Now, let's turn to something that touches every one of us but often goes ignored: digestion. Dr. Miller noticed a trend in many of his patients who reached 90 with clarity and mobility intact. They prioritized gut health without even realizing it. Not through complicated probiotics or expensive powders, but through something much simpler, a daily fiber ritual and consistent meal timing. He used to tell his patients, "Your gut is your second brain. If it's sluggish, so are you." One of his favorites was oatmeal with flaxseed and fruit, gentle on the system, rich in nutrients, and dependable. But more than the meal itself, what mattered was the rhythm. A predictable pattern, eaten in peace. Not rushed. Not skipped. Let me introduce you to Harold. At 85, he began experiencing strange fatigue. He wasn't sick, but he wasn't thriving either. His sleep was off, his moods erratic. Dr. Miller asked him a simple question: "What time do you eat breakfast?" Harold shrugged. Sometimes 8, sometimes 11, sometimes not at all. There it was. The older body craves rhythm, just like the tide, like the seasons. When Harold committed to 3 regular meals a day, always seated, always mindful, his energy began returning. His sleep stabilized. Even his memory sharpened. It wasn't magic. It was simply returning his body to the safety of structure. One thing Dr. Miller always reminded people: digestion doesn't just happen in your belly, it affects your brain, your immune system, even your bones. So whether it's oatmeal, soup, or a boiled egg on toast, find your staples. Make them simple. Make them sacred. And eat with gratitude. You might be thinking, these habits all sound so calm, so gentle. And that's exactly the point. Too often we equate health with extremes: sweat, sacrifice, struggle. But what Dr. Miller learned over decades of practice was that it's the softness of life, the steadiness, the deliberate steps, that carry people past 90. Now, we come to a habit that surprises almost everyone. A habit that lives in your pocket, or on your nightstand, or, if we're being honest, sometimes falls asleep beside you. Your relationship with your phone. Dr. Miller didn't oppose technology. In fact, he encouraged many of his older patients to learn how to use their smartphones to connect with family or explore new interests. But he also issued a clear warning: use your phone like a tool, not like a tether. What he meant was this: if you begin and end your day glued to a screen, you rob yourself of 2 of life's richest windows. Morning and evening are moments of transition. And what you feed your mind during those times has more influence on your mood, stress levels, and sleep than most people realize. Let me share the story of Donna. Donna, a sharp 79-year-old widow, spent her evenings scrolling through social media. She said it helped pass the time. But she began noticing anxiety, disrupted sleep, and feelings of loneliness that came in waves, especially after she logged off. Dr. Miller suggested a simple shift: swap the screen for a book, a handwritten letter, or a 5-minute audio meditation. Donna resisted at first, but after a week, she noticed something: she was sleeping better. She was smiling more. She felt like herself again. The difference wasn't drastic, but it was real. Now she keeps her phone in another room after 8 p.m. She reads from a poetry book her late husband loved. And sometimes, she writes little notes to herself in a notebook, just to reflect. These small acts of disconnection reconnected her to herself. So if your evenings feel restless, or your mornings chaotic, ask yourself, what's the first thing I see when I open my eyes? What's the last thing I look at before I sleep? And is it nourishing me, or draining me? Dr. Miller believed this was one of the most underrated longevity habits of all: respecting the sacred transitions of the day. Begin with breath. Move with rhythm. Eat with peace. Listen with intention. Disconnect with purpose. And remember, aging isn't a race to delay the inevitable. It's a practice in learning how to live, gently, wisely, and well. We're not finished yet. There are still 2 habits left. And the next one just might be the reason some seniors remain independent while others struggle. Stay with me, because it's more powerful than any vitamin, and it starts with a single step. It starts with a single step, and builds into one of the most defining habits of those who reach 90 with dignity. We're talking about engagement. Dr. Miller used a word that often caught people off guard when he talked about aging well. The word was purpose. Not in the grand, world-changing sense, but in the quiet, personal, deeply grounding way. He believed that one of the most powerful daily habits you could cultivate was this: doing something each day that gives you a reason to get up. You see, physical health can carry the body, but purpose carries the soul. He saw it again and again. His patients who kept going not just with strength but with joy were those who had something to care about, even if no one else saw it. A neighbor to check in on. A dog to walk. A poem to write. A seed to plant. It didn't matter what it was, only that it existed. Let me introduce you to June. June was 84 when her husband passed. For a while, she was adrift. Grief will do that. But something unexpected pulled her forward. It started when she noticed the children in her neighborhood walking to school every morning, heads down, backpacks heavy. One day, she waved. The next day, they waved back. Within a month, June was out on her porch with a thermos of hot cocoa, offering warm smiles and kind words. She became the porch lady the kids looked forward to seeing. She started writing little quotes on a chalkboard, messages like, "You matter," or "Today is a fresh start." Dr. Miller visited her once, months later, and she told him, "I'm not just surviving anymore. I feel useful." That was the key. So he began asking every patient, "What gives you joy today? What makes today different from yesterday?" And if the answer was nothing, he'd gently nudge them to find one thing. Not someday. Today. This became the sixth habit: meaningful daily engagement. Not to-do lists or productivity, but a sense of contribution. Of being needed. Of being here. And let's be clear, purpose doesn't have to be loud. It's not about saving the world. It's about presence. It's about giving your time or attention to something outside yourself. Whether that's a pet, a plant, a neighbor, or your own well-being. If you don't know what that might be for you, start small. Ask yourself, who can I lift today, even just a little? Or, what simple act would make me proud at day's end? You might be surprised at how quickly life begins to glow again. Dr. Miller believed that aging wasn't the loss of youth, it was the arrival of something deeper. And this daily act of engagement kept his patients rooted in the moment, connected to their humanity, and open to joy. But even this habit, powerful as it is, works best when it rests on the final foundation. The seventh daily habit, one that touches every other part of life. Reflection. Every evening, often before dinner, Dr. Miller would ask his patients to take 5 minutes, just 5, to reflect. Not in guilt or regret, but in awareness. He called it the 5-minute mirror. It wasn't about achievements or failures. It was about asking 2 questions: how did I show up today, and what would I like to do better tomorrow? He believed reflection was the secret to resilience. That by reviewing the day with honesty and kindness, we give ourselves a chance to grow, even in our 70s, 80s, or 90s. Let me tell you about James. James was a retired school principal, a man known for his discipline and calm. After a mild stroke at 76, he felt his confidence crack. He worried he was becoming a burden. He feared losing control. Dr. Miller gave him one assignment: each night, write down one thing he handled well and one thing he'd like to improve. At first, James scoffed. "What good is that going to do me now?" he asked. But over time, those 5-minute entries became a quiet lifeline. He started noticing his small victories again, walking an extra 5 steps, remembering a phone number, laughing at a joke. And those moments of, what I'd like to improve, gave him direction instead of despair. I realized, he told Dr. Miller months later, that I'm not finished becoming. And that's what reflection gives you, a gentle mirror that says, you're still learning. You still matter. So whether you write in a journal, speak aloud to yourself, or simply sit in stillness for a few moments, give yourself the gift of daily reflection. It centers you. It clarifies your choices. And it helps you carry your wisdom with grace, not weight. And that, Dr. Miller believed, was the final thread in the fabric of longevity. Because here's what he knew, after a lifetime of listening to the stories of the aging. Those who lived past 90 with vitality weren't necessarily wealthier, or luckier, or even healthier at the start. They were the ones who stayed awake to their lives, who breathed intentionally, moved joyfully, ate mindfully, listened carefully, disconnected purposefully, engaged meaningfully, and reflected gently. They lived with rhythm, attention, and heart. They didn't do everything perfectly, but they did a few things daily. And those few things made all the difference. So as we near the end of this journey together, maybe it's time to pause and ask yourself, what small ritual could you begin tomorrow morning? What gentle shift could become your first step toward longevity, not just in years, but in joy? Because as Dr. Miller always said, the goal isn't just to live longer. It's to live clearer, kinder, and more alive. And that starts today. Imagine waking up one day and realizing you've quietly added 10 more good years to your life. Not just in time, but in quality. You can still carry your groceries. Still tie your shoes without wincing. Still remember your grandson's birthday and beat your neighbor at dominoes. That kind of life isn't reserved for the lucky few. It's built, gently, patiently, and consistently, through these small, daily habits. The kind Dr. Miller spent his career quietly championing. The kind that seniors like Helen, Robert, Gloria, and June made part of their rhythm not because they were chasing time, but because they were honoring it. Dr. Miller once said that getting older is a privilege, but staying vibrant is a practice. And that practice begins when we stop waiting for the big changes and start making the small ones. So if you're sitting here thinking, where do I start? Start with breath. Or water. Or a 5-minute walk. Choose just one thing that feels light, not heavy. One thing that reminds you that your body still responds to care, your mind still opens to kindness, and your days still hold meaning. One of Dr. Miller's favorite phrases was, longevity isn't about outliving others, it's about outloving your life. Let that sink in. To outlove your life means showing up for it, day after day, even when your knees crack and the days blur. It means noticing the birdsong outside your window, not just the ache in your hip. It means laughing when the jam jar won't open, instead of scolding your strength. It means letting go of what doesn't matter, so you can hold on tighter to what does. It's easy to feel like the world rushes ahead without you as you age. But here's the quiet truth, the world still needs what only you can give. Your stories. Your wisdom. Your time. Your presence. And the best way to keep offering that? By staying as well as you can, for as long as you can, not perfectly, not tirelessly, but intentionally. So before we part ways, I want to gently invite you, if this message has touched you in some way, or reminded you that your daily choices still matter, take a moment to let us know in the comments. Share your thoughts, your favorite ritual, or even just say, I'm here. You never know who else reading your words might feel a little less alone. And if you'd like to hear more stories, more insights, more small truths with big meaning, I'd be honored if you subscribed. We're building a quiet community of wise hearts here. And there's space for yours. As Dr. Miller would say, every day you wake up is a page in a story only you can write. So write it slowly. Write it kindly. And never forget, it's still being written. Thank you for sharing this time with me. Until next time, breathe deeply, and walk gently forward.